In the waning days of the Roman Republic, before the echoes of conquest and civil war, a young Julius Caesar, destined for greatness, faced an unexpected ordeal. In 75 BCE, while sailing to study in Rhodes, Caesar's journey took a fateful turn when his vessel was seized by the fearsome Cilician pirates. This encounter would not only test his mettle, but also foreshadow the iron-willed leader Caesar would become. The sun hung low over the Mediterranean, casting its golden hues across the sprawling sea, a testament to the ancient world's beauty and treachery. Julius Caesar, young and yet untouched by the scars of politics and war, journeyed across these waters, his eyes set on Rhodes, a beacon of knowledge and rhetoric. Little did he know, his path to wisdom would take a dramatic detour. As the vessel cut through the waves, the serene blues of the sky were suddenly overshadowed by the looming threat of Cilician pirates. These maritime outlaws, feared across the Roman world, were notorious for their audacity and cruelty. Their ships, swift and agile, emerged like specters from the sea's depths, surrounding Caesar's vessel with predatory precision. The pirates boarded, their presence an amalgamation of danger and desperation. They were men of the sea, hardened by a life of plunder and survival. Among them, the captain, a figure both charismatic and menacing, assessed his prize. Recognizing the young Roman noble among his captives, his eyes gleamed with opportunistic fever. Though outnumbered and outmaneuvered, Caesar stood unflinching. His gaze met the pirate captain's with a defiance that bordered on recklessness. When the demand for ransom was made, 20 talents of silver, Caesar's response was as unexpected as it was bold. He laughed, a sound that cut through the tension like a blade. Disdain in his voice, he declared that such a sum was beneath him, and demanded they increase it to 50 talents, a figure more suited for his future and prestige. The audacity stunned the pirates into a mixture of amusement and begrudging respect. They saw in Caesar not just a valuable hostage, but a man of extraordinary caliber, one who, even in chains, refused to bow to his circumstances. As Caesar's ship was commandeered, setting course back to the pirate stronghold, the young Roman stood at the helm, the sea breeze through his hair. In his eyes, there was a fire kindling, a harbinger of the legendary leader he was destined to become. The Mediterranean sun dipped below the horizon, not as a closure, but as an overture to one of history's most remarkable tales of capture, cunning, and conquest. In this moment, the course of Caesar's life shifted irrevocably. The seas that were meant to ferry him to academic pursuit instead steered him into the clutches of danger and adventure, setting the stage for a confrontation that would echo through the annals of history. The pirate stronghold, hidden amidst a secluded cave, was a world apart from the grandeur of Rome. Here, in this den of thieves and outlaws, Caesar found himself a captive, yet he bore no semblance of fear or despair. Instead, he carried himself with an air of authority that seemed to transcend his chains. The pirates, a motley crew of rugged men, accustomed to fear and obedience, found themselves oddly fascinated by this Roman noble. Caesar, with his sharp wit and bold demeanor, did not cower. He conversed with them, debated, and even shared his knowledge, holding court as if he were in the Roman Senate rather than a pirate hideout. His days were spent in an unusual routine. Each morning, he would walk along the shores of the cove, accompanied by pirates who were both his guards and a captive audience. He spoke of Rome, of politics, of the grandeur of the Republic. His voice, strong and clear, carried stories and ideas far beyond the pirates' experiences, leaving them spellbound. In the evenings, under the canopy of stars, Caesar turned to more leisurely pursuits. He would engage in games of strategy, teaching the pirates to play the trunculi, a game akin to chess. In these games, his tactical brilliance shone through, a hint of the military genius he was to become. Amid his camaraderie, Caesar never let his captors forget who he truly was. He maintained a regal posture, often demanding silence when he wished to rest or write. He recited his own compositions, poems, and speeches of such caliber that the pirates, though unlettered, were captivated by his eloquence, and in moments of displeasure at their lack of appreciation, his reprimands were stern, a stark reminder of his superiority. One night, as the pirates gathered around a fire, sharing tales and spoils, Caesar joined them, with a cup of captured wine in hand. He looked at each of them, his gaze piercing. In a tone laced with dark humor, he declared that once free, he would return, not as a guest, but as a harbinger of their doom. He vowed to hunt them down and crucify them, a promise so audacious that it drew laughter from the bandits, who saw it as nothing more than the bravado of a captive. But beneath the laughter and disbelief, there was an undercurrent of unease. Some glanced at Caesar, not with amusement, but with a dawning sense of apprehension. In the flickering firelight, the shadows cast upon Caesar's face seemed to dance with a sinister promise, a foreshadowing of the retribution that was to come. Through these interactions, Caesar's time among the pirates became more than a mere captivity. It was a period of intellectual dominance and psychological warfare, where he, a solitary Roman, held sway over his captors, with nothing but the force of his personality. In these days and nights, Julius Caesar, a captive among pirates, laid the groundwork for his legend, one that would eventually eclipse even the far-reaching tales of the sea's most feared marauders. The day of Caesar's release dawned like any other on the pirate island, but for Caesar, it marked a turning point. The ransom, a staggering 50 talents of silver, arrived, brought in by loyal companions who had scoured the cities for the sum. As the coins clinked and the pirates celebrated their fortune, a steely resolve hardened in Caesar's eyes. Freedom was at hand, but so was the onset of his vengeance. The chains lifted from his wrists, Caesar set his plan into motion. He departed the pirate haven, not with the demeanor of a relieved captive, but with the measured steps of a man on a mission. He traveled to Miletus, gathering a small but determined force, men drawn to his charisma and cause. Together, they prepared a fleet, modest yet capable, to hunt down the pirates who had dared to ensnare the son of Rome. The sea, Once the pathway in his journey to Rhodes, now became his avenue of retribution. Caesar, with a newfound fervor, led his makeshift fleet back across the waters. His knowledge of the pirates' haunts, gleaned during his captivity, guided them. The element of surprise was on their side, for the pirates, basking in their ill-gotten wealth, believed the young nobleman to be a distant memory. As Caesar's ships approached the cove, the pirates remained oblivious to the impending storm. Their laughter and songs filled the air, a stark contrast to the silent, deadly approach of Caesar's fleet. The morning mist concealed the ships until it was too late for the pirates to mount a defense. When the battle came, it was swift and brutal. Caesar's men, fueled by their leader's unyielding will, descended upon the pirates. The very shores that had once shackled Caesar now echoed with the clash of swords and the cries of battle. The pirates, caught off guard and outnumbered, fought desperately, but were no match for Caesar's strategic mind and the disciplined ferocity of his men. As the sun climbed higher, the tide of battle turned decisively in Caesar's favor. The pirate stronghold, once a place of revelry and lawlessness, became a scene of utter defeat. The pirates were rounded up, their defiance crumbling in the face of Caesar's unwavering authority. Caesar stood amidst the captured pirates, his gaze sweeping over the men who had once dared to make him a pawn in their game of plunder. In their eyes, he saw the dawning realization that the young Roman before them was not just a nobleman, but a force of nature. With the pirates in chains, Caesar set sail back to the mainland. His heart was not lightened by victory alone, but by the knowledge that he had turned his captivity into a demonstration of his power, cunning, and relentless pursuit of justice. This was not merely a physical journey back to Roman lands, but a metaphorical journey that marked the birth of a leader, a warrior, and a legend in the making. The morning sun cast a somber light over the city of Pergamon as Julius Caesar arrived with his captives in tow. The streets, usually bustling with the daily chatter of a thriving city, fell silent as the procession of defeated pirates and their relentless captor made its way to the center of justice. Caesar's presence commanded attention. His eyes, once filled with the light of learning and curiosity, now bore the weight of judgment and retribution. He stood before the Roman authorities, not as a victim seeking retribution, but as an executioner of justice, demanding the crucifixion of the pirates as he had vowed. The Roman officials, taken aback by the young nobleman's audacity and the gravity of his request, hesitated. But Caesar's will was unyielding. His words echoed, not just in the halls of justice, but in the hearts of all who heard him. He spoke of the law, of the dignity of Rome, and the necessity of making an example of those who dared defy it. As the officials deliberated, the pirates, bound and beaten, could only watch in silent dread. The humor and disbelief which they had initially greeted Caesar's vow of vengeance had long since evaporated, replaced by the stark reality of their impending fate. Finally, the sentence was passed. The pirates were to be crucified, a punishment befitting their crimes against Rome and its citizens. Yet, in a final act that reflected the complexity of his character, Caesar ordered that the pirates be granted a small mercy. Their throats were to be cut before their crucifixion. It was a gesture that mingled leniency with severity, a nod to the Roman virtues of justice tempered with clemency. The crucifixion site, outside the city walls, became a symbol of Caesar's resolve. The pirates, once the scourge of the Mediterranean, hung lifeless, a stark reminder of the fate that awaited those who crossed the might of Rome. And as the sun set that day, it cast long shadows over the figures on the crosses, mirroring the long shadow that Caesar himself would cast over the history of Rome. As Caesar stood surveying the scene, there was no triumph in his eyes, only the cold satisfaction of a promise fulfilled. This act of retribution was not just the end of a chapter in his life. It was a declaration of his emergence as a formidable figure in the Roman world. From the depths of captivity to the heights of power, Caesar had demonstrated a resilience and a strategic acumen that would become the hallmark of his storied career.